Okay, Carol or Chloe, I don't know who's starting. Carol?
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Carol, and I'm here with Chloe, and as Nick said, we are on behalf of NATECLA to talk about no tech or low tech, which is probably not quite what we named this talk, is it, Chloe? So Chloe, do you want me to share the screen or do you want to share it?
Yes, please, Carol, go on.
Okay, so I'll get that up and running. No problem. So no tech, but all about the tech. If I just do share. All right. So sorry about that. No tech, but all about the tech. Here we are. And these are our names here, as you can see. And I think actually, Chloe, you should go first because you are the first set of slides.
Brill, thank you very, very much, Carol. So yes, it's quite a short little bit of input we've got today. We've got about 10 minutes, and in those 10 minutes, we're going to show you 6 ideas. And you might not be down with all the ideas, you might just like one and you just go away with having one buzzing around your mind. That's fantastic, but we're going to whistle through. And those ideas, they're going to go from having the most involved tech to, when I hand over to Carol, absolutely zero tech, okay? So this first one on the screen in front of you has the most tech involved, and that doesn't necessarily mean it involves devices for learners though, because this is a phone simulator, and this phone simulator was created using PowerPoint, which is just, when I first saw it, it just absolutely blew my mind. Fantastic resource. Before you ask, yes, I will share it on the community of practice, so definitely sign up if you haven't already. So this particular resource is made with PowerPoint, and it was made by Steve Grix and the team at Novus, and they are prison educators. So obviously their learners, they cannot, well, they can't have devices, they can't have phones, but it's really important for them to still have that visibility and understanding of how a smartphone works for when they're outside, for life when they're outside the gate. So the team and Steve created this simulator using PowerPoint. And the way that it works is that if I, for example, wanted to click on, I can click on the little logo there that you see, which is the YouTube logo. And that would then lead to an image of YouTube. So it kind of works very, very similar to how a phone would in a basic way. However, it's created by using lots of different slides. That's all it is. It's just slides. It's not online at all. And the way that it's created is by using in-document links, duplicating images, duplicating slides. And then it's also sent in show mode, in slideshow mode. So it means that whenever someone receives it, they're not in edit mode. They're just straight away accessing the phone simulator. And a little bit of an idea there on the right hand side, when I first saw this, I started thinking about that, should say, ESOL teacher with NATECLA up there in the right hand corner. I was thinking about those online budgeting lessons where we might ask learners to go and access different online shops. And with that, if you give them a shopping list, you can only go so far, because you obviously don't want your learners to be actually buying something in your lesson, do you? Whereas if you could create a supermarket simulator, yeah, if anyone does that, please do let me know. That was just a little idea as I was creating this slide. Carol, next slide, please. Next idea. Oh, right, I'm going to be honest with all of you here. This idea, which is about co-creating quizzes using PowerPoint again, you may notice that I am a lover of effective use of PowerPoint. This was created because I made a massive boo-boo. This was a few years ago at the beginning of my teaching career. And I was so impressed with myself. I was embedding digital. I did a whole lesson around Kahoot, okay? You know what I'm going to say, don't you? Got to the session. We had Wi-Fi, that wasn't a problem. However, Mrs. here forgot my login details, so I couldn't actually use the Kahoot that I'd spent many hours over the weekend doing. So what did I do? I thought, right, oh my goodness, what do? I asked my learners to make the questions themselves. I turned it around onto the learners and put them in groups and asked them to make their own questions. And then I thought, I need to embed digital somehow. How am I going to do this? And I had my iPad with me and a projector, because that's all I had. I worked in a community learning. That's what I had accessible to me right there and then. And I asked each group to come on up and type in and create the questions themselves. And we created that using PowerPoint. In front of you is 3 slides as an example of what we did. And it looks very similar to Coop, but it's obviously a very basic version, isn't it? And to be honest, it was so successful that it's now something that, like, I've done this so many times. Since that boo-boo I made many, many years ago, I've done this activity a few times and it's fantastic. Also gets them using that QWERTY keyboard. Oh yeah, that's a bit of a soapbox of mine. So before I go off on one about the QWERTY keyboard, let's go on to the next slide, please. All right, and this last one I want to share with you is social media templates. And there's loads out there. I've even put a link to one there that I've been working on. In front of you, you can see a Twitter template, a Facebook template, and also a little picture of my classroom on the right-hand side where I used some Facebook templates. Really great for induction, but also could be used for ILPs. It could be used for reflection in the middle of the course at different parts of the course. It could be used as a recap activity. I don't know, 240 characters. What have you learned in this lesson? That kind of thing. So have a little look at those templates, but you don't even need necessarily a template. By the way, I might have done them in PowerPoint. Like I said, love PowerPoint. But you could actually do away with it completely and just use Post-it notes. It could be that you have a WhatsApp wall, for example, communication, and you just do it using Post-it notes. That 240 characters, that could be a Post-it note. And you also ask folks to put an @ to each other. You could ask folks to put a hashtag, start thinking about what hashtags actually mean, etc. All righty, now I'm going to pass on over to Carol, who I think is completely no tech whatsoever.
Okay, so we're looking at how we can reduce the amount of technology that we use, okay? And there are 3 sort of ideas or umbrella ideas as to why we should actually switch off from using technology. And I think most of us know over the last 2 years of being online so much that it's really important to take care of your health, your physical health, and your mental health. So the part of this I wanted to sort of share with you is some telltale signs with your learners, maybe with yourself sometimes, of how to tell when you need to switch off from the tech. So in terms of switching off, you might think that, look at exhaustion, listlessness. Maybe a student isn't handing in their assignments on time or at all. Maybe sometimes they're feeling lost in a lesson. They could be easily stressed or irritable. So these may be signs of other things as well, but you might not want to discount the fact that they are feeling pressured by using too much technology. The physical impact that it has on us would be when you are seated for too long in front of any device, or even if it's watching a television, but most people who work in an office and they're sitting for long hours, they do get things like back and neck pain, especially when you're staring at a monitor. Your neck is in a certain direction. If you're using a phone, your head might be tilted downward in a certain direction for a long period of time. There are other long-term health benefits to consider when you are sitting for a long time, and that comes with weight gain around your midsection, which then has other health factors such as diabetes and long-term heart conditions. So these are things to be aware of for health reasons. Another thing about using a screen for a long period of time is that it does impact on your quality of sleep. So it has been shown that the light from a screen, whether it's a computer screen or a television screen or your phone, that actually affects your brain ability to produce something called melatonin. And that is your sleep hormone that you need. So if a student is coming to class who is looking exhausted or stressed out or irritable, it could mean that that student is spending far too much time online trying to do assignments or trying to type or do work online that you might have set for them, and they are feeling the effects of it. Over the last 2 years, I've had to get stronger glasses and barifocals because of using a computer for too long. So I can tell you that eye strain is a real problem of being online for too long. Okay, so these are some reasons why we should probably look at pulling back and switching off. Another reason would be, and I think we are a bit aware of this already, is being mindful of people's digital skills, their devices that they have access to, and how accessible is their connection to the internet. So again, you might think, and if this is also for online and face-to-face classes, okay? So absenteeism, if you are teaching online and someone is persistently not coming to class, it could be an issue that they're having with their digital skills, having to share a device, or just not having enough data. Okay, so some other telltale signs there would be their participation and late submission of assignments. So the factors to consider there would be whether they have to share devices. Last year, this would have been more of an issue with their children being at home and homeschooling. You might want to think about their own data budget. So some people may not have, Wi-Fi that is easily accessible. They may have to use data on their phones, and they may have a certain financial situation that limits the data package that they have. Okay, so things you can do to counteract that would be to use, and as Chloe is showing, you can use paper a lot. You can use printouts, you can use handouts. You can just have one device in the classroom, like a tablet or the teacher's PC, and then you can let them use that. And I've found with teaching lower level ESOL learners to get on board with Let's Get Digital, and even as I'm teaching EDSQ for ESOL learners as well, they find it very useful to step away from the machines and just come back to a learning format that they are comfortable with. So using a handout, mini whiteboards, or coming up to the whiteboard, or if you're lucky and you have a smart board, then they can do that. But you want to pull away from a screen a little bit and just let them do something that they are familiar with. It will help with their overall learning. Okay. So the third one then, and this one, I don't think many people think about this, would be your digital carbon footprint. Okay, and this is where we can embed a bit of sustainability now into our lessons. Okay, so I've got a number up here, very big number, and it's there for a reason. But I'll at the end of it, I think Chloe and I will sort of show you another number and explain what it's all about. So when should we start pulling back from technology again? Telltale signs would be, are you constantly checking social media? Are you always on that phone, Twitter or Facebook or whatever? Are you always checking to your emails? Do you send to just the person who needs to hear the reply, or do you always do reply all regardless? Do you send attachments back, or do you sort of make sure that you have a setting so that if you don't need to send an attachment in a reply, it doesn't have to send? Think about streaming videos and music for lessons, and about learners sending a picture of their homework. So you might, and I'm guilty of this. I used to say, if you can't type your homework, write it out, take a picture, send it to me. But then I realized maybe we need to rethink that a little bit, or at least try to balance it out, because your digital footprint, and I think we all know what's a digital footprint, and we kind of know what's a carbon footprint. You can actually blend the two together, because a digital carbon footprint is that every time you go online, you have a digital footprint. But every time you go online, you also have to use electricity. And that's where you get your digital carbon footprint. So if you send an email to someone, that's 4 grams of carbon dioxide to equivalent of emissions. You put an attachment onto that, it jumps up to 50 grams. If you have an hour of video conferencing, that's 150 grams. So right now we're 75, okay? So things you can do would be to limit streaming and online activities, clean up your cloud. Now I've put a little picture here of what your cloud really looks like. A cloud is not invisible, a cloud is not something in the air. This is a cloud. or a data center. It's an actual physical, massive premise that has loads and loads and loads, rows and rows of these servers, okay? And these servers need electricity to run, and they need electricity to stay cool. So every time you log on, you want to send an email, or you want to use social media, or you search something on the internet, you are tapping into your cloud, okay? So things you can do would be to limit the streaming and online activities, clean your cloud, do not keep things you don't need to keep, download and work offline if you can, and last of all, switch off and power down. Switch off, not just close the screen on your laptop, but actually switch off, and then go to the plug and switch that off as well. Okay, so nothing is on standby. Okay, and that's it from me. So I think we're just gonna put these into 6 points for you here. And I think, Angela, Nick, is this where we open the floor?
I think so, yes, Carol.
Okay.
Yeah. So if anyone's got a question,